Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining that first technical webinar that we just broadcast. Hopefully you were able to make it across to this follow-up Q&A session. We received a few questions during the presentation, and please feel free to enter any follow-up questions in the live chat box on the right hand of your screen. So the first question I got is, what's the control dose for multiple METs, 80% or 90% for static conformal fields? For ARC treatments, is it 95% control dose? So all prescription parameters are defined within the clinical protocol templates over here on the right-hand column under protocol. The system ships with these templates defining a prescription dose to the 99.5% volume of each one of your targets. Also keep in mind that the dynamic conformal arcs these are dynamic conformal arcs, and the dose heterogeneity that you're going to see can reach around 20 to 30% of a hotspot, as you can see in this DBH here. The second question that I got, what is the best planning option for cone-based trigeminal neuralgia? Well, this is the multiple brain METs SRS element, and it's been designed basically solely to treat multiple METs with MLC and not with cones. However, we are working on a functional cone planning element, which can automate the treatment planning process for indications such as trigeminal neuralgia or essential tremor treatments. The next question, is the smart brush dependent on your MR window and level? So no, the smart brush is not dependent on the MR window and level. It's actually looking at the raw gray values in Hounsfield units to perform the thresholding and the edge detection when you're going to contour through your METs. I also wanted to talk about the multimodality function within the smart brush. As seen here, there's this multimodal checkbox. When you actually select this, it's going to use the information from both the MRs displayed in this side-by-side view here in the smart brush. So if you have two MRs, if you have a T1 and maybe a T2, it's actually going to be performing edge detection on both those data sets. So maybe you can see a little bit of enhancement on the T1, and then there's a little bit outside of that on the T2. If you keep on contouring outside of that original enhancement, it'll actually capture that, the rest of the contour or the rest of the edge from the next image set. So if you have, those are all the questions that I have at this time. So if you have any further questions, please go ahead and enter them now into the chat box on the right-hand side. So keep in mind, this was a pretty basic tutorial, just going through the overall workflow and overall steps within this treatment planning process. We plan to have some more advanced technical webinars in the future where we're going to go through some of the template editing techniques, basically changes that you can create if we need to cluster METs in different ways to achieve better dosimetry, how to change the start and stop angles and the table angles to achieve the dosimetric results that you really want. With the default templates that this system ships with, we've been able to achieve really clinically acceptable results in most cases that I've seen. But of course, if the METs are very far apart, sometimes we're getting certain targets treated with the 5mm outer leaves, which can degrade the dosimetry of your plans, where you may want to pull some of those out to bring the isocenter, which is in the middle of all the center of volume of all the METs, together. So please look out for those future webinars. For this case, can you share the arc angles? Sure. So let me open up the multiple brain METs planning element here. It may have lost the plan when I backed out into the smart brush, but let's see if we can recalculate quickly here. So in this particular template, we have a six arc template that's at 0, 5, 40, 75, 290, and 325 table angles. Finishes calculating. I'll go ahead and show you the beam's eye view here. From the data tab, you can open this up to see all the different visualizations that you have available to you. So right now in the selector view, we'll click the second view, which is the beam's eye view. And now you're going to get a visualization of all the different table angles and arcs that were actually generated for this particular plan. On the bottom left-hand corner, you see the different arrows in green and in yellow here. Those are showing you the different arcs for your plan. If you see a forward and a reverse arrow, that means that there was a forward and a reverse pass at that particular table angle. So here we used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all 6 table angles, and at 2 of those table angles, we have forward and reverse passes. So when you look at the main screen, you can actually see the apertures that were optimized for these particular arcs and scroll through those as you see fit. If there's any other questions, please enter them now. Otherwise, if you do have any further questions, they can be submitted on the novaliscircle.org forum page, or you can reach out to your respective application consultants or sales. Looks like there aren't any more questions, so we really appreciate your time and look forward for you joining us in future webinars.